And welcome back to the season finale of our podcast. I'm Jackie Chaplin. I'm a crochet business owner and YouTuber.
I'm Rebecca Merker. I'm a handmade artisan jeweler.
And in this episode, we are going to be doing just kind of like a recap of everything that we've went over. We do still encourage you guys to go back and give everything a listen because we'll be going much more in depth in the actual episodes. But we just wanted to, rediscuss everything we've covered this season and like hit the high points. So if you do only listen to one episode, you'll get a little bit of like everything in this one. But we started all the way at the beginning of how do you know it's time for you to start a business, and some of the finer points of that included having an idea, a why for it, and like knowing where your startup money is going to come from.
Yeah, I think that was really the major one on that. Where's the money coming from, and having like a vision in place. The second episode that we did was where and when. When are you going to actually work on your business? Everything from the digital marketing aspect to the actual physical products you're going to sell, and mapping out when your markets will be, and where at, in your house, at a studio, where can you do this where you're going to have uninterrupted time, or you're going to have space to spread out.
Because we didn't necessarily put it this way in the episodes, but there's basically a lot of time and effort that goes into a business that's unpaid, and a lot of that time and effort initially will cost you a fair amount of money, even in like the most basic of businesses. Mine's crochet, so I literally just needed some yarn, some stuffing, and a crochet hook. But if I'm making like more than one crochet product, there's a lot of startup requirements for that, and then paying for markets if you're doing in-person markets. So we went through the finer points on that, and knowing you're actually ready to go.
There's a lot of little costs involved that really it's going to cost you before you make money, and it's really the highlight of that episode is you do have to spend a little to make a little, and you need to know where and when you're going to put the time in so you can make that money back. Otherwise it's just going to sit there.
And just be realistic about it. And we did caution against using credit unless you are like really have like a surefire kind of business plan in place, because your credit bill is going to come knocking in like 30 days, and a lot of times it takes a lot longer than 30 days to get a business up off the ground. But we'll leave that.
It's up to you what you decide to do.
Of course. And then we moved into kind of more meat and potato stuff. The like practical advice we had for starting a business. We pointed you guys in the direction of some resources like Canva. That is kind of like a graphic design type of, how would we even describe Canva? Canva's like good for everything, I feel like.
It really
Marketing
is good for
materials.
everything.
I make my YouTube thumbnails. It's designed my banner
super user
in it.
friendly. You can do your videos, your reels, things like that on there as well.
Yeah, there is some editing capabilities. It's not super robust in that context, but any type of picture.
Photo editing too, and then they are working on product photos as well. Now I don't recommend it as it is right now.
Yeah.
Don't recommend it as it is right now, but I do believe it has potential for the future, and I think that that's important.
At the time of posting this, it is only $12.95 a month, $12.95 a month, and you get also access to like social media schedulers, so you can make all your like marketing stuff in Canva and then like automatically publish it on social media for $13 a month. So if you're gonna make any sort of like subscription investment, I think everyone should really have a Canva account if you can like afford it.
I think so, and it has some of the best customer service I have ever seen. So even though we are not paid to promote them, we highly do recommend them, and we talk about them pretty frequently in our own videos.
Oh yeah, I do everything in Canva. I've literally, even outside of business, I make like chore lists for my kids in Canva. I've got a habit tracker I've made myself. I've made myself like budget sheets.
Homeschool stuff. I've done a lot of that through Canva because it has the ability to.
Yeah, and all this stuff, once you have the pro subscription, is free. Though there is a free version of Canva. It's just less. You get less stuff, of course, because it's the free version. Yeah. But that way, if you guys want to try it out, you can actually see if you like it and kind of get a feel for some of this stuff. Though some of the features are pros, so you won't be able to try out everything. But
and it is like, it's not like a trial basis, so it's not a 30-day free trial kind of thing. There's literally a free version of it that just has limited access to specific things, and then there's a pro version of it that has like full range of abilities that you can do.
Literally everything. Yeah.
It
Once you pay
cool.
that $12.95, there is no like above that.
The next episode that we talked about was Etsy versus your own independent website, where we both highlighted the points on where Etsy was beneficial and where our own websites are beneficial, and it really comes down to whether or not you're just beginning or you're an established brand. brand.
And it's a matter of preference too, because I still personally think I'm very pro Etsy. I'm currently an Etsy seller. I will probably, even as my business grows larger, stay on Etsy just because I have one of my products is a digital download because I sell crochet patterns, and that's very like easy money on Etsy more or less, because like I make it once and I can sell it like 1,000 times, and fees do come out of it every time. But it's not the same level of making a product and selling a product and making a product and selling a product. Doing that, you'll probably end up paying a lot in fees the bigger you will pay a lot in fees the bigger you get. And then at that point, that's when I think you should think about either switching to your own website or trying to like pull your customers over to your website and do that instead of, but at the very least in addition to, because just generally speaking in business, it's usually not advised to put like all your eggs in one basket. That's why you get people like us who have, you know, Etsy websites, sell in person at market, are on like all the social media platforms.
Now, we don't recommend going too thin either. We don't want you to put all of your energy into every single platform. And I personally stand behind having your own website because I believe branding is very, very important. And your website allows you to brand for you. You're not associating yourself with other individuals or other companies, but it is a preference point. And honestly, from a beginner standpoint, certain platforms like Etsy that have traffic regularly going to them may just be a better option in the beginning, or until you can find what your preference is. You could try out more than one at once.
Yeah, you could definitely have more than one at once for sure. But the main difference is Etsy is like $15 a one-time fee to start, and then there's like transaction fees associated when you sell something. Whereas like having your own website, that's going to be typically 30 plus dollars a month every month, no matter if you're selling 100 things or one thing or even none things. So a lot of people can't really afford that right off the bat. So that's why Etsy is like a little more like entry level, but it's
Etsy
definitely not
has traffic that's geared directly towards it.
Oh yeah, people go to Etsy to shop. People don't necessarily go to the internet to shop.
Yeah, and your website's definitely going to be a you drawing traffic in. So if you already have an established audience, or that's what you want to work on, an established audience that is looking for you specifically, that's where your website's going to be more beneficial.
Yeah, a website pairs really well, like your own website pairs really well with selling in person at markets, because you can hand every customer a business card and be like, I do custom orders, or if you want to see more of my stuff, go to my website, or if you're ever looking to like order something as a gift, you know, here's my card. And that's how you drive your own traffic there. It's just a matter of preference, because she's, you know, more or less anti-Etsy.
Not anti-Etsy.
Well,
I think Etsy has its place. It definitely does. I don't have anything
you're not
to
a
say against
fan.
them.
You
I'm
do
not.
see the appeal of starting there, but you're also, if there was an alternative to Etsy that wasn't Etsy, you'd be like, go to the alternative. But Etsy really has no real,
because there are alternatives to Etsy, and I still think that they're bad ideas.
It's not really an alternative though. When you look at this, the numbers, it's not an alternative.
Well,
The top three like shopping platforms are Amazon, eBay, and Etsy. And if you don't have Amazon, eBay, or Etsy numbers, you might as well not even exist, honestly.
That's true. Okay, as a platform, not as a small business, by the way. She's talking about platforms.
Yeah. Show of hands, who's bought from Depop? Not I.
What the heck is Depop?
An Etsy competitor.
Well, no. Other ones include like Go Imagine. Michael's has its own one. No.
Oh yeah, Maker Place. I did a video about that.
Yeah, and you have to really look into the details of that. If you guys are going to look at other platforms that might draw traffic to it, you need to read the fine print. I can't go into details on why. I can just tell you that you should, and if it seems sketchy, it is.
I've got a video on my channel about Maker Place. I will preface this by saying I am not a lawyer. I could have fully interpreted it wrong, but I did a video saying such things, Works Whimsy Crochet, on YouTube, and the wording made me personally uncomfortable, and I shared my thoughts on that. And I will say that video has like more than 1,000 views, and I am not the only one who's interpreted it that way. So I'm putting a pause personally on Maker Place. Plus, it's a new platform. It's not competing. It doesn't have the ability to.
Michael's does have the money to, so that's something to keep in mind and keep track of.
Well, I want to say one more thing about it, and then we'll move on. Michael's customers are makers. Maker Place's customers are not supposed to be makers, but all of us makers are seeing that. And I don't know about you guys, I do buy from other makers from time to time, but I don't primarily go out of my way to like small business shop, you know, from things, because sometimes I can make it myself.
Well, not for similar things at the very least. I do shop for small businesses pretty regularly. Like, that's just a part of who we are as a family and what we do. But I
It depends
don't
on
look
the
for I don't look for like things that are similar to what I make. I support other creators that I feel personally connected to, even in the jewelry industry, and I have so many amazing friends who make amazing pieces.
Yeah.
But I don't go out looking for them. I don't search for them in Google. I found those people by chance, and I just love them.
You're being shown Maker Place. I'm being shown Maker Place. That's because we've shopped at Michael's, and Michael's shoppers are creators, and I just don't feel like the creator is the target of like Maker Place.
Well, I do
You're selling to like customer people that can't make things. I think they're doing it for product research.
Yeah.
So they get ideas from us for free, and then they can rip off stuff is how their stuff is written, which we can.
That is how the fine print, yeah.
But
that's from the fine print. All right, let's move on.
As far as having your own website or like Etsy goes, it's going to be hard at first, and it's probably going to make you feel a little frustrated, feel like you don't know what to do. And we tell a lot of people to fake it till you make it, but then you get into dealing with some imposter syndrome. So we discuss that in an episode and how you can kind of overcome that. And if you're not familiar, imposter syndrome is when you basically are more or less faking it, but then you start feeling like people are also going to view you as somebody who's like faking it and like a fraud. But there's a difference between like confidence and really like falsely representing yourself.
The key is to be honest. You don't have to pull knowledge out of your hat immediately right then and there. You know this stuff, and you can always reference and say, hey, I know what's going on. Let me get back to you with an email so I can go into detail. It's this idea that if you're on the spot, you feel a little bit uncomfortable with all the information or people referring to you as an expert, and you just need to take a breather and remember that you did do the research. You are an expert. I don't necessarily believe in experts, but
yeah,
you're
I
an
necessarily
expert
believe
in your part.
You're an expert in your business.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you're an expert in like
your field.
Everything to do with the thing you're selling.
There's always room to learn and to grow, and there is nothing wrong with learning and growing. Anybody who makes you feel otherwise is kind of fooling themselves.
And I think that's like how you combat imposter syndrome is one, being willing to learn, and two, doing some of that learning like up front so you are knowledgeable in your field and what you're selling. But there's nothing that says you have to know everything up front right away, and there's nothing that says you have to tell like every person you meet that you're a brand new business, because it can be kind of intimidating.
You don't have to
be a brand new business.
Cite your years of experience at all.
Yeah.
You can just talk about your business and why you do what you do.
Yeah.
Even telling people how you got started does not cite how many years you've been in business.
So if I wouldn't say lie, don't say you have 10 years of experience. Mm-hmm. If you only have one, but if they didn't directly ask you, how long you've been in business, you could just say like, okay, I tell people I started by making baby things. It was fun, but then I kind of got feel for doing plushies, and now I do plushies, and that's how I choose to like spend my time, run my business. But that's why I have like the occasional baby thing here and there, because I still sometimes make that stuff.
Well, and a good advice is sometimes it's easier to cite the year you started than it is to cite how long you've been in business.
Oh yeah, my banner actually says established 2022.
Yeah, so
it's a relatively new business.
Mine doesn't, because my business has been around for so long. So I'm 14 years in business. I started around 2010, 2011. So saying that just I don't mind telling people. It definitely leads to how long and the things that I know, but it's just not something that I've ever felt necessary to kind of just put out there.
Yeah, most people don't ask. Some people do.
Most people question it. They're like, you don't look old enough to have a business that long. Okay.
Yeah, I started in high school.
I don't know how to interpret that.
I get people when I do tell them, because I actually tell people a lot of times, even if they don't ask how long I've been doing it, if they've got an interest in crochet, because they say like, I could never do that. And I'm like, listen, you wouldn't know by looking at it, but I've actually only been doing this for like a year and a half, 2 years-ish now. But like, you can get good very fast if you put the time in. And they're always like taken aback, like, you've only been doing it for like a year? I'm like, yeah. I do get more practice than the most average person. Because
maybe, you don't know though. Most people don't have their kids kind of up and on them all the time.
Yeah, but most people even doing it as a hobby don't do it like morning, noon, and night the way I do. And I make a lot of the same patterns over and over because it's for my business, so I do get a lot of practice.
Now, segue into, we would like to recap on markets. We spoke a little bit about how to find the right market, what demographic will be at the market that we're looking at, and where you can find markets.
Yeah, and that played really well off of imposter syndrome, because I know a lot of us people have a little bit of social anxiety. So we went over the best way to greet customers, and this one will blow your mind. Just say hi, and if they keep on walking, they're not interested. If they turn and come in, just have a little rundown, like a 10-second
elevator pitch.
Yeah, an elevator pitch is what it's called. Just, these are my plushies. It's all crochet. It's done by hand. Let me know if you have any questions, and then you can kind of sit down and wait.
I mean, it's a good place to start as any, and I mean, most people, once they see your products, if they're interested, they're gonna come look.
Yeah, if you say hi and they turn and look and then come in, you know that you are at at least can do your like little pitch. If you say hi and they don't even look and they keep walking, you know, like you've done your part in that transaction and they're just like not interested and they've got somewhere else to be, and that's kind of it. I like to, if a customer is browsing around for, you know, 10 to 15 seconds, like long enough that it's like awkward to sit there silent, I like to ask them like, hey, are we shopping for anyone in particular? And then based off their answer, I can kind of pitch a product or two. But that is like more, you get more comfortable doing that the longer you've been doing it.
Yeah, you can always ask
have to
someone,
do that right off
is there anything I can help you with? Would you like to see anything in person? Can I tell you about my pieces? There's so many like segue conversations you could do. Great.
Yes. And if you're nervous, just kind of jot them down ahead of time and that'll help kind of work from a script.
There's a lot of places in the back of your booth where you can hide things, including like post-it notes or conversation starters. Just something you can take a quick glance at to help with conversations when people come up and to calm your nerves a little bit.
Yeah, so using a script, I feel like a lot of us have done it at some point or another, and it's a good technique. And that segues into markets and how to find ones that like suit your target audience.
The next section is on demographics. We spoke a little bit on how you can utilize demographics both online and at in-person markets in order to best find the market that fits your target customers, where they're going to be at, where they're going to be shopping. And the same as online, they'll also kind of shows you where they're going to be shopping online. It covers age, it covers, you know, things that they like to do, and it kind of covers the amount of money they spend and where they like to spend their money at.
So an example that I like to use is for my own self. Typically I target like family-friendly events because I sell stuffed animals, so a lot of times they're for kids, though they can certainly be for adults too. But even though I tend to do family-friendly events, there was one event that I did that I'm looking around like left and right. I'm seeing all just like adult kind of items, like a lot of leatherwork stuff, dog toys, jewelry, clothing for like a human adult size people, and I was like the only one with like kid things. However, because I was the only one with kid things, that actually worked out to my favor because a lot of people ended up bringing some kids, even though this market was like late at night and supposed to be like a girls' night out themed event.
The demographics really do help with figuring out where you want to set up. So whereas Jackie might look for kid-friendly events, I've actually veered away from kid-friendly events, noticing that those are not the people who will buy my fine jewelry. So
yeah,
I
that's
look
not
for
to say
fine
that
art
moms
shows.
don't, but usually if you're bringing your kids to something, your budget for the day is allotted for kid things.
Yeah, and you really don't have the energy or ability to kind of like stop at a booth that's similar to mine. I understand that my booth might give some people anxiety. As a mom myself, it doesn't bother me, but I do understand and feel the same way when my kids start touching things too.
Yeah, so it's just kind of think about that and use that to like gauge what events you're gonna do and what platforms you're gonna sell to. If your item is like for older women, probably you won't find them too much on the TikTok.
You may find them on Facebook though, because
yeah,
that's a platform that's more regularly used by older individuals.
and maybe Twitter, because Twitter kind of, there's some like left field on that. And then it's not to say that they can't be on like Instagram too, but the more like picture video based platforms tend to be more for like the younger
audience.
Yeah, younger demographic, you know, so just kind of keep that in mind.
Now, the next episode that we did after demographics was on SEO, search engine optimization, and that really does mainly focus on utilizing social media platforms and website platforms.
And understanding your demographic there, because you need to think like your customer, because SEO is search engine optimization. It's what your customer is going to type in to find your product.
A lot of times with handmade jewelry businesses, these are things that we handle all ourselves until we have a chance to grow to outsource these things.
And outsourcing them is very expensive, so.
It is. So we do a lot of this work ourselves. So I know it seems like it's really tedious to have to do all of these things.
It is.
But
That's
is.
because it is.
And it determines whether or not your business is going to continue to grow and be successful. So it's also really important to be knowledgeable about them.
Yes, so that's why going all the way back to episode 1 and 2, one of the things we covered is the ability to adapt and the willingness to learn, because you're gonna need to familiarize yourself with things like SEO and social media platforms, because if you can't get out in person at markets at least every weekend, you're eliminating a lot of potential customers if you're not doing the online portion of it too. And you don't necessarily have to be like in love with doing all the online stuff, and it might be really challenging. Like, I did not know anything about Instagram when I started Instagram,
And when I started, a lot of this stuff didn't actually exist.
Yeah, when I started my first business, TikTok was not a thing. When I started my first business, I don't even think Vine was a thing yet, and kind of TikTok grew out of Vine.
Facebook was a thing when I started my business, and Instagram was just starting up, and Pinterest was a thing, kind of. It was YouTube was obviously had been established for quite a few years, but a lot of running a business on any of those platforms was not majorly well known, and it was a big learning curve back then to run your business and to reach customers and to get them to buy online. Buying online was not what it is today, and this is only talking 14 years ago. There's so much development that has happened in the online world and the way that we all shop.
Yeah, now people are comfortable putting their like credit card information in online, and thank gosh, because doing in-person events is exhausting.
I love it personally, but it can be very tiring.
I like doing in-person events, but doing like 2 weekends in a row it's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
It really is a lot. So don't eliminate online as like a potential area to sell just because you don't know anything about it, because you can learn, and like that's just a big part of being in business is the willingness to learn, because things will change and grow. Like Twitter used to be big and now it's not.
Yeah.
Technically Twitter doesn't even exist anymore.
No, it's X.
SEO is super important, so like willingness to learn, because if you don't, the big takeaway from the SEO part is it just boils down to what will your customer search to find the product, use those words, and don't skip it, because then you're not telling the internet what your thing is. And while the internet has some ability to read an image, you're going to go a lot further just typing in what your thing is.
Telling the internet
Rose pendant necklace,
what they're supposed to be reading.
Plushy dinosaur,
Whatever saying
who it's
cup.
for. Yeah.
That wraps up the first season of Growing Your Business.
Be sure to be liking and commenting on everything, and especially comment if you guys have questions, because your questions are going to be used to kind of guide and mold season 2 of our Growing Your Business podcast.
We're very open about our businesses, and we are happy to answer pretty much anything.
Yeah, there are no dumb questions, and if you got the willingness to ask the question, please do, because I guarantee you somebody else is like wanting to ask a question and is just too nervous to ask. So you're really doing a favor to somebody by asking the question.
I don't know if there's no dumb questions. 'Cause, like,
I really don't think there is, because like
I could find some dumb questions.
what is even a dumb question? Because somebody is going to need to know something. Yeah, try to keep it business specific, but even so, if it's like related to us, like we're happy to share for the most part, most information, I feel like.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us this season.
Have a great night. We'll see you next time.
Bye.